basically what we're going to do tonight is just ask them a little bit about their experiences, about how they got to where they got. Ask them a little bit about the impact that we are having in business and in tech now, and what we'll be doing, what the impact that we'll be having in the short term. So we'll get started with a few established questions, and then we'll definitely open it up for questions from you guys, all right? So the first question, and it can be open to anyone here really, is why tech? Anyone want to take an initial stab?
So I think that all the paths lead to tech, right? If you look at the world now, it doesn't matter what you work on or where, there's a tech component to it. Agriculture, all the innovations are in tech. Medicine, all the innovations are in tech. Law. So I think that why not tech? It's a better question. I think that we all, to a certain degree, are connected to tech. And I went to law school. I never thought I was going to be working at a startup that turned out to be so big like Airbnb. When I first started, there were like less than 20 people. And but what attracted me to tech was the challenge. The fact that it was new territory, there was innovation, there's disruption. And I was really attracted to that, the challenges.
Yeah, so for me, I started my career in private equity. So I was working in finance. And then I remember I used to do this stuff manually over and over. How about now? First Visual Basic Macro. And I thought I was a god. Because what took me a half an hour suddenly could be done in 5 seconds. And that was the moment when I realized that computers do finance better than people. And I'm a person, not a computer, so I should get on the right side. And so that's why I started going into tech. And then I began to realize a little bit more that tech allows us to leverage our impact on people and on our communities in a way that we can't do without it. And so for me, the idea to be able to help more people by using technology kind of gets me excited each day.
I come from a different background. I'm PR and communications and marketing. So I'm not sure how many of you guys are in the marketing field or not, but fantastic. But that's the thing, you don't necessarily have to be a coder or developer to be in tech. I mean, obviously, lots of people here in marketing and communications, and we are working in tech. I really would say I came into it a little over 1.5 years ago when Periscope, well, first Meerkat, when Periscope came out. I saw Periscope, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with what it can do from a storytelling perspective. And then from there, it progressed into virtual reality. So I see tech as an amazing way to tell stories. And that's really kind of where I'm coming from on the tech side.
I guess to follow up on that a little more, tech, kind of what David was saying, was it helps a lot of people solve problems. So what we're doing with Unity is ticketing, so we're helping venues sell tickets, Latin venues sell tickets to their customers. And again, it's a problem that was very broken with the way a bunch of our Hispanic venues did it before. And we're giving them these options, these abilities to solve problems, to sell tickets, to sell online, to do e-commerce, to do things that they couldn't do in the past. And that's where tech comes in, helping people, either whether it's generate more revenue or just solve any problem, tech is really helping you get there.
Fantastic, thank you guys. I guess going into the next step, what, aside just how you got to tech, what about tech is unique, and then maybe more specifically, what opportunity is there for the Latino community in tech?
I think that there are huge opportunities for Latinos in tech, especially in virtual reality. I have some of my virtual reality friends over here, my VR tribe. But it was probably, there was a panel that CNET en Español put together, and Emily Miralles, woohoo, CNET over there. Emily Miralles from NASA, she's been doing VR with NASA for a very long time. She's Venezuelan. And she spoke and she said, there's opportunities for Latinos in all different areas of virtual reality. So it's, whether you're a storyteller, a content creator, a developer, anything that you are doing, it is an amazing time in tech, especially if you are interested in VR and AR, to kind of get involved.
Let's see. Opportunities in tech for Latinos. Well, from the business side of things, there's a huge opportunity, especially where we've seen credit card adoption rates go up over the past 5 years, an insane amount in the Latino community. A few years ago, a lot of Latinos, especially in our industry, would never buy online. They wouldn't want to shop online. They didn't have credit cards. They were scared to use technology to buy online. Over the past 2-3 years, it's growing so much to the point where a lot of Latinos are very comfortable buying online. So I think for companies that are in tech, this whole market is a really untapped market, especially inside of anything tech for e-commerce or any sort of sales kind of thing. It's wide open right now. It's a market that wasn't reached before. That's finally comfortable buying online, I think, and that's huge opportunity there.
I think I see it from a little bit of a different perspective. I think that there's truly the challenges that we have are actually masquerade by all the opportunities that we have are masquerade by all the challenges that we have as Latinos in tech, right? Right now, diversity is a really big word in the tech industry. And when we talk about diversity, we're talking about Latinos, we're talking about African Americans, we're talking about people with disabilities, etc. Where I see the opportunities is us as a community. We are uniquely positioned to actually craft the future. And I say that because we are the people that haven't been tapped in. We are the ideas that are still to come. We are the people that are going to bring the innovation, because right now we are the minority in tech. And so what it looks like a challenge, what it looks like something that can be a problem, I actually see it as a path to the future. And when we think about tech, we need to do it in a way that is holistic. There's engineering, there's everything that has to do with technology, but what are the areas where Latinos already excel, right? Marketing, right? Technology, video, finance is social media, exactly. So that's where we need to tap in. We need to be able to say, now, these are the ways that we can contribute. And then by doing that, we're going to create pipelines to bring everybody else who maybe is in a technological role, etc. So I see challenges that are opportunities, and I think that by bringing our ideas into tech, we are going to shape the future in a way that is going to work for our communities. And I'm really excited about that, actually.
Yeah.
So maybe just an example of kind of what you were talking about. So when we started, so we do retirement plans, which is pretty sexy, right? But what's interesting, it's scary, right? Like when you look at the U.S., half of American workers don't have a retirement plan at work, and you don't have a pension. And then it gets even sadder when you recognize that only 1 out of 4 Hispanics in this country actually have a 401k plan. 1 out of 4. Like, that's really atrocious. And so, and we didn't, that wasn't my mission when we started the company. We just realized that 401k suck and that we could make them a lot better. And so we came up with something that was awesome. And I was like, oh, hey, there are a lot of people that either don't speak English or prefer to speak in Spanish. And so we came up with a wacky idea. Well, what if you actually explained to 401k in Spanish? So we went to some of the biggest 401k companies in the country, actually the 3 biggest ones. And I remember going to the first one, talking, like, hey, dude, we're so excited. Look at this awesome thing we have, and it's in Spanish. And they're like, well, we don't need that. What do you mean you don't need that? Well, Mexicans. I'm Mexican, so that kind of excited me that all Spanish speakers are Mexican, but they're like Mexicans. They're talkers. What do you mean they're talkers? Well, they don't use the internet. They prefer to use the phones, and we have Spanish speakers on the phones. And I'm like, but dude, your website is not in Spanish. So if you don't speak English, don't use it. And so I was the first person. Literally, 3 out of the 5 biggest ones that we talked to, they all had the same narrative. Either Spanish speakers or Mexicans don't use the internet, they use the phone. Well, guess what? So we didn't go through them, and we started going direct to companies. And some big companies, and one of our first companies that we started working for was actually the California Wine Growers Association, right? So we're talking about migrant farm workers, most of whom aren't that literate, in their primary language, let alone English. And we started making something super easy for them to do on their phone. And oh my God, it's like overnight you see a 40% increase in the number of people that are saving for retirement. So that's great social good to do. But it was merely a recognition of a blind spot that the entrenched incumbents had, which is based on some sort of prejudice that Mexicans or Spanish speakers don't use the internet. And I think the extent to which we just know that that's not true, and we can develop awesome solutions to reach that community, like that's actually a huge opportunity for all of us, because guess what? We're outnumbering everybody else now.
And to that point, because I talk to brands, and it's always like marketing, and they're all like, "Oh, we want to work on, all the Spanish speakers only in Spanish," and I'm like, "Well, the younger generation, I think the statistic is that 1 in 4 millennials is Hispanic. So if you think about that, these younger Latinos are, like many of us here, bicultural, bilingual. So there's a big push also, and a big misconception as well as to how to market to Latinos effectively in using technology. I think it's one of the ways that they disregard it. I mean, the amount of there's statistic after statistic that says that the younger Latinos, the millennials, and the Gen Zs are the heaviest mobile users compared to the rest of the population. So there's going to be amazing opportunities for startup ideas, to create something for our community, to serve our community.
Thank you guys for that personal perspective. One of the questions that I'm sure a lot of the folks here probably have is, well, then how do I get into tech? So do you guys have any perspective on that you can share?
This is something I'm super passionate about, actually. So, since we're little, we are taught, math have taught us that there is no exponential value to 1, right? Like 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 1 is 2, and we grow up growing that, but that's actually not true. It's a big lie. There's a big exponential value to the power of 1, of an individual. And that's how we do tech. That's how we all get into tech, is by leveraging each other and by being together and changing the equation from the inside. For a long time, I was the only Latino employee at Airbnb. I've been there 6 years. That's a long time. When I started, there were less than 20 people, and now we're 3,000. So it's a big journey. And I remember looking around and seeing no brown. And I wonder what's broken, what's not working. And sometimes it's tough to realize that what's broken is you. And so I realized that I had a responsibility to actually make that my problem. And it's tough, right? When there's a situation when you're underrepresented and somebody tells you, guess what? It's on you to drag yourself out and suddenly count. But it's possible. And you do that by establishing connections and leveraging those connections. Something that we're doing is that we have created a group. It's called Juntos in Tech. And Juntos because being from all these wonderful Latin American countries, we're all different, but we're all the same. We're definitely classified as one, as the same by status quo. So we're together in this, whether we like it or not. And I like it, but whatever your opinion is. And so we thought about how can we change that? How can we use each other to leverage the contacts that we have and the connections that we have so that we can help others get into tech? And that's where the group came from. The idea behind it is that, let's say that you are an engineer and you're looking for a job and you know Jose. And you're like, Jose, hook me up on Twitter. And Jose's like, dude, we're not hiring. It's, there's just no roles. But guess what? I'm part of this network, and I'm going to socialize, the fact that you're looking for a job with the network, and we're going to help you find a job, in another tech company. And so it's not about Airbnb, it's not about Twitter as much as you and I love these companies, but it's definitely about our community, creating our community first. So I would turn the question back to you and say, what can you do to get more of us into tech? Because I can guarantee you can exponentially change this, and I hope that if nothing else, you're inspired to do that. Awesome, yeah, how do you follow that?
I think one of the things that I have done personally is I've reached out to young Latinas that are interested, and I started to mentor. Mentoring people in our community. If you are here and you're working in tech, how are you giving back? Are you reaching out to students that are, looking for opportunities to understand? Like, go out to lunch with them. If you want to mentor someone, really take that on, because it's been transformative for me to kind of be the mentor to someone. I had really good mentors throughout my career. So reach out to people and mentor them, because that's one of the ways that we're going to change this. And I also have to say, through social media, one of the biggest things that I've taken advantage of has been Twitter. For how do I get into tech, or how do I find those jobs, or how do I connect with those people? And and I'm not saying that just because we're here, it's because it's true. One of my past jobs I actually got because I connected with that person through Twitter. So, there's great power in it.
Yeah, so for me, I think it was doing exactly what you guys said, which is reaching out to people and asking for help. And it's amazing. It's like somebody once told me, like, if you find a CEO and for whatever reason you want to talk to that person, just shoot them an email. It's bizarre, but it actually kind of works. And that's helped me a couple of times, just sending a cold email, and then usually like a second or a third cold. But if it's actually, if you're just telling somebody why it is that you admire them and how you want, and how they might help you, advise you, it's amazing. Then you get the meeting, and you sit down with that person. Like we were really excited to talk about ourselves, right? Because we're all awesome people. But then you start asking them questions about them, and you learn more about them, and they learn more about you. And two things you leave that. One, you met a person who now knows about you and who cares about you in some way. But then you actually now know about that person, and hopefully, if you have enough of these meetings, you then can provide value to that person. And that's the point at which you actually create a relationship, and that's the point at which that relationship begins to be kind of like a tree in an orchard. And you just go through your career, plant more trees in that orchard, and helping other people out.
And then to build on top of what everyone says, the exact same thing. Latinos are a very family-oriented culture. It's just built into our DNA. So we're willing to help each other out. So we're actually, I think, very lucky in a way, because you can reach out to other Latinos and that are in tech, and you can ask for help. And I think we might be a little bit more willing to help than sometimes other people might be.
I'll echo that actually, and maybe it's not necessarily just from a Latino standpoint though. Like, clearly from this room, it's evident that there's an amazing community out here. Leverage that. Like, if you met someone today and you had a good conversation, chances are they'll talk to you again and they'll help you if they can. So if there's one thing that I hope you get out of this, aside from getting advice and getting a little bit of inspiration from these folks, is reach out to one person. And whether it just be for coffee, or just to ask them some perspective. I met a young lady today who's a VR superstar I didn't even know. And she's here and inspiring me. So it's some of these little conversations that you should definitely take advantage of. Let's dive in a little bit into what you guys actually are getting into. We've got a couple co-founders here on the panel. Javier, let me ask you, what was that like? Not only just like taking on a leap of faith to start a business, but taking it on in what is, as you kind of mentioned, sort of a disorganized community that maybe is a little bit later to the game in tech in some aspects. How has that challenge been like, and what do you see as an opportunity? Because clearly your company is now, 6 years old, so something's been going pretty well.
Yeah, well, I was lucky in that my co-founder was in the event industry his whole life. So he had been running events and putting on concerts, and doing everything that was on the marketing side, the organization side. So it was kind of an easy leap for us to switch into the ticketing side and then try to provide venues with a way to sell tickets to their concerts. But it was scary, when we first started it, and I started as a side project. It was scary because you did see a lot of people not buying online, a lot of people scared to buy online. And then we let it run for 2 years without really doing too much. And we slowly saw the adoption rates go up. People were getting more comfortable, like I said earlier, with shopping online. It's the past 3 years have been just insane in the amount of people getting comfortable buying online. And we work with venues also. Venues are our clients, I guess. And even they're picking up. A few years ago, a venue would not want to sell online. They're like, we don't need to. We have promoters who are going to go on the street. This whole street team kind of sales for concerts. And over the years, they're like, oh wow, I can see the sales live right now. This is amazing. So even business owners and venues have been really picking up on using technology to help them be more efficient. So it's been a fun ride, and we've seen like I said, sales go up. People are using credit cards. People are feeling safe. Business owners are wanting to use technology now. Everyone's using social media. Hispanics live on social media, so everyone's using social media now. So it's been fun to see. So.
Any other perspective from kind of running your own business?
Yeah, so before I started ForUsAll, I used to do, because I was at a company, they were like 300 or 400 people, and it's like special new product stuff, right? So like the team, and I thought that was like being an entrepreneur. And then, so I thought this was going to be the easiest thing to start ForUsAll. And easily the hardest thing I've ever done. To be totally honest, don't know that I would do it again. Because it really does require everything. So the only thing that can sustain you to give everything, and I think we're giving everything 4 years now, is if you really absolutely care about what you're doing, right? If you can honestly say, yep, this is my life's mission. If this is the last thing that I work on, I'll be really fulfilled. Then do it. Else don't. Because it's just too much to give unless it's something that you really want to give everything to. But that said, it's also really exciting because I think we look back now, and I remember when we opened up our first 100 401k accounts for people that never had one before. I was like, that's amazing. And then it was the first 1,000, and then the first 2,000, 4,000, 5,000, and it's like now it's just growing, and you look back and you're like, wow, look at all the people that we touched in an intimate way that's actually creating the opportunity for them to live with a little dignity when they become 65 or 70 years old. So do it when you're really passionate about it.
Although I didn't found a company, I did learn a couple of things by being at Airbnb from the beginning, and there's three things.
I was going to follow up with that question. What happens when you started a 20-person company and it becomes 3,000?
Yes. So there's three things. People ask me all the time, what's the secret sauce? Why? How come Airbnb is so successful? And in my opinion and what I have observed, there's one thing. You have to be unwilling not to compromise your values. And you have no idea how many times we have made decisions at Airbnb that could have been considered not the best business decisions. But at the end of the day, they were made because we understood that the values carry the company. And just like you said, when it comes to the mission, you need to believe in what you're doing, and you need to believe that what you're doing is having an impact that goes beyond you. If you're just doing this for you, then guess what? Once you're satisfied, and you will be satisfied with what you got or what you achieve, then the dream is gone. But when you're doing it for everybody else, and every day you gain one person that you're responsible for, whose dreams you care about, then it just becomes bigger. So number one, don't compromise your values. Number two, it's don't be afraid to change directions. We have had some really dark days at Airbnb, especially at the beginning. There were things that we did really wrong, and things that we should apologize for and manage differently, and we did it right away. But what made us survive those things was that we did it eventually, right? Like we realized, okay, this is not the direction we should be doing. We put I don't know how many $1 million into this, or we really focus on this. It's not working, and you have to be brave enough to say, I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to admit that we tried, and it's not the direction we should go, and we're going to try some other way. It's really hard to do that. A lot of people just say, this is going to work, this is going to work, and then suddenly you realize that it didn't. And so that's one, and that's two, and the third one is the people. What's the secret sauce? The secret sauce is the individuals. So that's where we come in, as Latinos, right? Because we need to diversify the gene pool, and the more diverse we become as a company, the more successful we are. The more offices we open, it's not about the numbers, really. It's about what comes with it, the values and all those things. So I would say that's a secret sauce. Have a mission. Don't be afraid to change directions and be diverse.
Thank you. I'm going to ask one more question, and then we'll open up to some questions from the audience. All right. So this is a little bit to what I alluded to before. Given the opportunities that we're kind of currently experiencing, Javier and David both mentioned sort of like the opportunities growing within their own businesses right now. Can we talk a little bit about the impact that we can have Latinos in business? In technology, and then even in the world. I mean, we have an election coming up in a month that has a big impact on a lot of our lives, and we represent a very big group that if they haven't been paying attention to, it's going to hurt. So just some perspective on, and you can dive into any kind of those topics, but the impact that we can have, you guys see, or that you see that we'll have in the short term and long term.
Yeah, so for me, it always comes back to just remembering who you are, and none of us are, I suspect, none of us are here because we did it ourselves, right? Like, I know that that's not true for me. I know that I had a great family who cared about me and who helped me. I know there are a lot of people along the way who cared about me and who helped me. And I think the extent to which we remember that and feel indebted to that, and let that spirit guide kind of the things that we do on the margin, right? Like, we're not going to be a successful 401k company because we do things in Spanish, right? That's not enough to make us change this big part of the market. But that was one of the very first features that we built. And we built that because it was something that was really important to me, because I saw the impact that it had on my family and my community. And we did it for that reason, frankly. And then it started helping in other areas, and it opened up different industries and verticals that we could go after and be successful. So I think for me, it's just remembering the community that you come from and being sensitive to the needs that are currently unmet, and doing some of that stuff on the margins. And a lot of it won't pay off, but some of it really will. But hopefully all of it will help a lot of people.
And along those lines, I always think about tech and how can we use new technologies for social good. One of the stories I tell is that I used to work for CNN, and part of my job was watching all the footage that was coming in from the war in Iraq. So I had to sit down and watch the beheadings. I had to sit down and watch the bodies of troops being, burned and dragged through the streets. I had to watch that because that was part of my job. I had to tell the affiliates at CNN, there's footage that's sensitive at this time. And it's crazy that now people just seek that out on YouTube or whatever. So when I had my first virtual reality experience, it created empathy. It immediately created empathy in me. And I saw something I had never seen before, and I said, oh my gosh, this can be used for so many amazing things, because it can really put you it can put you in someone else's shoes, literally, where you're able to experience, for example, there's an experience called confinement, where you're inside a cell, like the solitary confinement cell, that prisoners spend 90% of their time. I mean, I was in that experience for 3 minutes and I was claustrophobic. There's Aleppo, there's different ones about Syria, where actually you're looking around the devastation. And it's different than looking at it, in 2 degrees. You're there, you're seeing this, and it creates real empathy. That led me to the decision to be a part of a social, it's a 360-degree documentary that we're doing, trying to shed light on child trafficking. Trying to shed light on child trafficking. We're trying to use VR technologies, and I'm using it as a blanket term, but 360-degree video to show the stories, to show there's no way we can really, show that, but like through the ways we're filming, we're trying to show what's going on and try to create awareness and create empathy. And I think if you're in tech and you're in new technologies, or even if you're working in any company, how are you using that for social good? So that's one of my missions when I started with VR, was like, how can I use this amazing technology to create change in the world?
So, I hear a lot about how we're becoming the majority in the United States. That's a big thing everybody's talking about. Everybody's really exciting. We're gonna be, we gotta be numero uno. And that's great. I mean, numbers are powerful, they are, but they mean nothing if they're not activated, honestly. There can be millions of us, and at the end of the day, the question that I have for you is, so what? If we don't do something with those numbers, nothing is going to change. So the way that I think that we can change things is like being activated and taking a conscious decision or making a conscious choice of like being changed. And the way you do that, sometimes it's hard, because sometimes you have to be the voice that makes people uncomfortable. You have to be the person that brings up the stuff that nobody wants to talk about, right? Like, hey, what's going on here? How come we are not diverse? Or how come this person didn't get promoted? Or like, maybe you're in a position where you can't talk for somebody who doesn't have a voice. Well, use that voice. It's not easy, it is uncomfortable. Be a little bit irreverent. Be a little bit in somebody's face. And do that with class, but do it. Because at the end of the day, change doesn't just happen, we make it happen. So, to your question, what's going to happen to Latinos? I don't know. I think that if we work together, we can really shape this country into different else, and we can have our civil rights moment. We can have the moment where we say, look at our contributions to this country, listen to our voice, and then hopefully make change. This election is a perfect example. I'm glad you brought it up, so I didn't want to be the one who brought it up. But the truth is, like, yeah, we have to, exactly. Like, I spent countless hours calling people and talking to them about voting, not about voting for somebody, about voting. Because at the end of the day, I want you to have your voice, not my voice. But it's really important that we do that. We really motivate people, we engage people, and that put yourself in uncomfortable positions. If you're comfortable, guess what? It means that you're not changing. So put yourself in a place where you're uncomfortable, and I can guarantee you that things are going to start happening.